Alright guys, sorry about this smaller video. It's a quick addendum to the last video on the part 2 of getting started in Mordhau modding here. Real quick, make sure you go to your editor preferences and then type in procedural and you'll see that there's a procedure foliage. Make sure that's ticked. Once you do that, you'll be able to see the foliage type in miscellaneous. You'll see foliage type and you'll see the landscape grass type and the procedural foliage spawner. Now this is if you do want to do background foliage, and you'll be able to do that if you make sure you have this ticked. So if you don't have this ticked, it probably won't be there. This is all an experimental tab too, if you want to just look there, right there at the top. And after you do that, one thing I forgot to include in this is when you do a lot of forestry like this, make sure you go to your foliage here and you go to every single one of these and you make sure to search for shadow casting and turn it off. So like mine's off right here. Turn them all off. You don't need shadow cast on any of these, to be honest. The only thing that you might want casting is the persistent stuff, but you can actually handpick a lot of these. And the bigger the mesh, like if you upscaled it, the more likely you want to keep the shadow casting off because the shadows are very heavy on performance. That is very key, and that's a lot. I think I turned off casting for everything up on the surface. The only time I didn't is down here in the cave. I left some of these rocks, but that's okay. Having like 6 big rocks here, keep casting so that way light this doesn't just show on the ground here. That way you still get the cave effect and you're still good on performance. Now if this one I believe is casting, yep, it is. So when you turn off, yep, that's exactly what it's going to look like when you turn it off. So keep these ones on. So it really depends on what you're using, but try to keep it off for the most part if it's on the surface. If you have light coming in, yeah, turn it off. Especially if it's a night map, you don't have to worry about it too much. In the day, yeah, you can leave it on, but I wouldn't go as intense with as much foliage here that I did. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And I wanted to make sure that this is added so that way you guys know how to add all that stuff in. And if you guys still want to learn procedural generation, let me just show you real quick because that is going to be a thing. Night read, shared assets, and procedural foliage. So once you do have all of this set up, like in the second tutorial, you're going to have a procedural foliage spawner. This is the trees. It's a box. That's all it is. It's a box, and inside the box is the assets. Where's the assets? It's supposed to be up here. Let's make this bigger. So this is going to be the area of which it's applying to, and you're going to make sure that it is on the box. You can change this to, however you want, but leave it on box for now. It's easier to mess with. So this is the procedural foliage spawner here. Overlap. Now you want to turn it off of most of this unless you want it on meshes. So say it's on this rock, the same thing applies. So just leave it on the landscape. You want to save it on foliage. Yeah, you don't want that. So leave that on. And then once you do that, you can simulate. There's one tree. Let's actually turn that up. Oops. Where's... I gotta set that. Okay. Double click that and make sure you put the foliages in there. And there's both that apply, and both those trees will be in there. So this is about what you want. Let's make it a bit bigger. Now keep in mind, if you do these boxes, they have to be in the background, because if you walk in this in-game, it will break your animation. You won't be able to attack. You can throw stuff or use range, but you cannot use any melee in this. Your feet will kind of warp upwards and you'll just kind of walk around goofy. Like it's kind of strange. So make sure it is in your background. So I put it like somewhere outside of them where you can't even get on the map, and then from there you can just put it in. So say that I have this blocked off, but you can kind of see the tops of this. This is where you do it. But since we can't really see that, I'm going to put it in the riverbed just so you can see what it does. You can turn this up too. I'll do 100, and then you click resimulate. Bam. These are your trees. And it'll auto adjust. And notice this tree is placing inside of the mesh, or rather this other foliage here, instead of on top of it. So it's not detecting that, and you can turn that on if you want. Or you can make this size smaller and it'll stay until you hit resimulate. Then it'll auto change. Bam, just like that. And that's for your background again. So make sure if you're doing this for you know, a more natural look, you're doing it in the background. And if you're doing it for the background, make sure you're not using high poly trees. Use low poly as you can. These are pretty, they're all right actually. 1,000 triangles here. Yeah, 8,000. You don't want 8,000. You want like something like this, like let's see what this is. So 1,000 is about good. So this cherry tree is all right. 8,000 triangles. No, I'd probably go a lot smaller than that. But yeah, that's essentially what you're looking for when you're doing the background. Then you can put stuff like this on your mountain if you want. And you can actually expand. Let's just make this huge. Huge. And this is a mesh. So allow on the mesh. Resimulate. Ta-da! Now you can get forest. And it's cold already because it's referring to these foliage types. So all your settings that you want to mess with the trees are in here, and then this is how many you kind of want to place in a box here. And if you can do as big as you want. But yeah, that's pretty much the basics of foliage types. And an addendum to part 2. So this is, I guess, technically part 3. All right. Sorry about the quick fix here on the updates. I don't want to leave out important information. Probably have a lot more, but again, send your questions to the Mordhau modding team. I know basically just all that I've taught so far, and that's as far as my knowledge goes. So yeah, if you have any more questions, send it to someone a little more advanced, especially programming questions. I'm not a programmer. All right, guys. Well, this has been a fun video. Lord Commander Guts signing off.